following is a presentation of the Michigan Sports Network.
Wednesdays on the Huge Radio Network are presented by the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can follow everything about high school sports 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. Wednesdays on the Huge Show are presented by the Michigan High School Athletic Association.
Welcome back to the Huge Show. Jeff Risdon today, being the huge one. Got a special guest coming in here for the next couple segments. Good friend, fellow Holland native. Well, Holland resident, I should say. I'm not a native. I'm not sure he is either. But we've spent some time there, and that man has done great things as he's progressed up the Lions social media ladder and coverage ladder. Mr. Mike Kimber from Lions Nation Unite joining us now.
Hey, Jeff, man, appreciate it. Yes, I wasn't born in Holland, but I definitely lived there for many, many years. Where you lived.
That's right. We can almost see one another's houses from where we were back in the day. So it's good.
Very close. We're within a mile, so it was really, really cool.
Absolutely. And it's fun to talk Detroit Lions and get some West Side perspective on the state, on the team. Training camp's back. We're rolling. Just give me your general impression as we enter camp on your thought of the state of the Lions.
Oh, super excited as we're headed into training camp here. I mean, you look at this roster, it's upgraded from what it was last year, specifically the secondary. We got to the NFC Championship last year, and now we got another draft class under Brad Holmes. So we're looking at this team and thinking that this could potentially be the year for a Super Bowl. And Dan Campbell, he's really excited. You've seen the press conference today. He doesn't care about the hype. He just wants to get to the work, and the players have the mentality. We got to get to a Super Bowl. So this team, I think, is absolutely ready mentally and physically. And it's going to be a special year for the Lions. I don't know if we make a Super Bowl or win it, but it's going to be a really good year with the talent that we have.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. There's absolutely every reason to be excited about this team this year. And one of the things that we saw on the first day of camp, all the reports coming out of Allen Park, are that Jameson Williams had a phenomenal first day. It sort of builds on a pretty impressive spring that he had, whether it was OTAs or mini camp. It feels like he's getting it, and that can only mean great things for the Lions offense, right?
I 100%. I've been very patient with Jameson Williams ever since we drafted him, and I was saying, just wait till he gets in the same page with Jared Goff and the rest of the offensive players. He's going to be a weapon. And the end of last year, we've seen it. And again, and today, he beat Terry and Arnold, scored a touchdown, and the interesting part was when he celebrated, he started vomiting. Why? Because it's probably really hot out there. He's in top physical shape. Amon-Ra St. Brown's talking about how he's going to have a breakout year, and I truly do believe that he's going to take that next step. I think that Lions fans have been waiting for since we traded up to get him in the draft a couple years ago.
Oh, man, the potential is certainly there, and it sounds like J-Mo just had some bad whatever he eats for breakfast. He has very weird dietary habits, so it's not surprising that a strenuous workout would make him a little disagreeable there. But,
and it's football. Every time you're running around, it does happen, and I think it's hilarious, especially the beginning of training camp. But, yeah, there's nothing to worry about physically, at least for Jameson Williams. It's not like he's out of shape. Like you said, it's probably more dietary, and it's hot out, and these guys are on the practice field running around in these temperatures here, so nothing to worry about, but it is funny.
Yeah, and it's the first day, too. They're back and, getting out there in front of the fans aren't there yet, but the media's there. I'll actually be there tomorrow. I couldn't get over there today. It's too hard to drive back and forth all the time, but I'll be there for the rest of training camp. And I'm very excited to watch a few things. And one of the things that I'm looking forward to is seeing how they use David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, and if we see them at all together. Do you have any thoughts on can you play them together, or what's the mix going to be like this year with Gibbs coming off his spectacular rookie season and Demo being everything that we wanted and more from a back?
First off, we got a great running back room from David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, even Craig Reynolds, Zavaki. I love what they got going on right now. Will they be on the field at the same time? I don't know. I don't think it's probably going to be like that. Last year they switched each position. They would have Jameer Gibbs in and then David Montgomery. I think David Montgomery had a little bit more snaps last year. I think it should switch to where Jameer Gibbs has a little bit more, just because he's such an explosive player, right? And you want to see him take that next step. And for sure, he's going to have a good year. When it comes to how they utilize all these running backs, it's going to be really intriguing. I think Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery we know, but I think the biggest one is Vaki, right? Is he going to be utilized as a kind of a running back who's out of the backfield, like Theo Riddick a couple years ago, whom we had on this roster, and then Craig Reynolds the backup. The Lions are good. The Lions are great. I would love to see multiple running backs on the field from Ben Johnson. I just don't know if that's going to be the case, because we didn't see a whole lot of it last year at all. Now, it's a different year, and these guys have different amount of reps now. He's not a rookie when we talk about Gibbs, but still, there's so much talent, it's hard to keep them off, but at the same time, it's hard to keep them all on because of all the talent at tight end with Sam LaPorta, Brock Wright, the wide receivers that they got. They do the extra linemen, so I don't know, probably not, but it's going to be really fun to see throughout this season.
You listing off all the talent that we've got there, it's as we approach fantasy football season and fantasy football drafts, like, people are going to be very excited about the Detroit Lions, but at the same time, like, there's only so many footballs that can go around, and there's so many quality players that can go get the football. It's going to be interesting to see, how they divided up this year after coming off last year. You brought up Sam LaPorta. He made the number 80 spot on the NFL 100. And that's pretty darn impressive for a rookie coming off of his rookie season that he did. Do you think he can repeat 88 catches or 89 catches, 900 some yards, 10 touchdowns? Is that a realistic goal for him again to maybe even surpass it?
I think it's going to be surpassed. When you look at Sam LaPorta, it's not the fact that he was a rookie year and he just surprised people. Yeah, he did surprise people, but he's really gifted. Physically, he's fast. He's an excellent route runner. His hands are top-notch. He catches everything. He's a student of the game, and when you have an individual that practices this much, that is this good right off the beginning, and it's not fluke because of defenses or something odd, it's because he's really good. And when you have weapons all around him, too, he's going to get more opportunity to be open. And especially with the offensive line, the continuity that we had last year, giving Jared Goff more time in the pocket to find a Sam LaPorta. Absolutely. I think he can get over 1,000 yards. Now, that may sound crazy, but is it really from what he did last year and what we've seen, his production and his speed and his elusiveness, his ability to break tackles and play through injury? He is the ultimate tight end right now, and I don't think he has a sophomore slump. I truly do believe we just got ourselves an excellent tight end, one of the best in all of football, and when you have a player of that talent in that ilk, it's not just going to fade off. Yeah, there may be seasons, right, that he doesn't get the most that he had from the season before. With that said, it doesn't mean he is a bad player. It could be many circumstances, and I just don't see that being the case this year of him falling off. He's just a good player. The only way that could possibly happen where he doesn't reach the milestones that we expect would be due to injury, in my opinion, not due to his ability.
Certainly, yeah, I'm with you on that. Love the enthusiasm coming from Mike. Mike Kimber from that Lions Nation Unite talking with us here on the Huge Show. Jeff Risdon in as huge today. Let's talk a little bit about one of the things that I think. So Sam LaPorta is such an accomplished receiver, and Jameer Gibbs is such a great receiver out of the backfield. David Montgomery can catch the ball out of the backfield. Craig Reynolds can too. Sione Vaki can too. Saw him do some wheel route action during minicamp and OTAs where it's like, oh, that can work. One of the biggest concerns that a lot of fans have is the lack of depth at wide receiver, especially beyond Jameson Williams. How much does that concern you, or does having all these other guys that can catch the passes, does that mitigate it for you?
Great question there, Jeff. And yes, it's been a concern from a lot of Lions fans, but I'm not too concerned about the wide receiver position. I understand we lost Josh Reynolds over 500 yards receiving last year, and he was integral. But at the same time, you have players like Khalif Raymond, who can definitely pick up that slack. I think He's a player who can play in the slot. He can play on the outside. I know he's small, but he catches everything, and he's excellent route running. Then you got a player who I think in Donovan Peoples-Jones who can take that next step, right? He was pretty good in Cleveland, as you know, because you covered the team over there, and now he's not going to be placed as a number 1 or number 2. He's probably going to be a number 4. Right? So they're good weapons at wide receiver, and say, okay, we don't have the best depth at wide receiver. That's okay, because you do have Sam LaPorta, Jahmyr Gibbs, Vaki. You got so many players that, like you stated earlier, so many balls can only go around. And just because you lose a Josh Reynolds, it doesn't mean one of these guys can't step up and take over the production, because Ben Johnson knows how to scheme these players open. He knows how to utilize their strength and speed like a Khalif Raymond. And these guys are going to get the ball. And again, it stems from the offensive line. All Jared Goff's got to do is just stand there, see who's open, and throw the football. And it's not going to be any different. Yes, we lost Jonah Jackson, but we get a Zeitler. We have such a good offense, it's quite difficult for defense to scheme to stop. Just because you lose a number 2 wide receiver last year, Josh Reynolds, it does not mean that Jameson Williams can't step. Doesn't mean that the rest of the people can't step up for those production of lost yards.
You're speaking my language, Mike. Love to hear it. Just real quick on Ben Johnson, how excited were you that he came back and didn't take those head coaching jobs that he was offered?
Well, as soon as I heard he's coming back, I just said, we just won the offseason. That was the biggest offseason question for me.
Yes,
was
sir.
Ben Johnson. It really was, right? Like, we talk about free agency, we talk about DJ Reader, we pick up Zeitler, we re-sign this guy, but at the end of the day, the biggest news was Ben Johnson coming back. His ability to understand the strengths of Jared Goff and how to scheme players open is something that I have not seen. I mean, he is really good, and having him come back with this offense and continue this top 3 offense, in my opinion, top 5 offense, is just going to bring the Detroit Lions team to even more heights with better continuity. This is now year 3 under Ben Johnson. These players predominantly are all coming back from last year, just with a few, but they understand the scheme. They understand the playbook like the back of their hand. So, yeah, as soon as Ben Johnson came back, I said we already won the offseason. I don't really care what happens after that.
Yeah, it's a great thing that he came back, and I kind of suspected that he would, but it was still one of those things where, oh man, it's nice to know that he's going to be back and working with Jared Goff and all the weapons, and also the continuity with the assistant coaches on offense. Nobody left. Mark Brunell's back. Tanner Engstrand's back. Antoine Randall Ella's back. JT Barrett's back. Hank Fraley, the offensive line coach, is back. And he's got some interesting work to do, Mr. Fraley does. We talked about this yesterday on the show with a couple of different guests, and I'll ask your opinion on it. Giovanni Manu, 4th-round pick. They traded a 3rd-round pick in 2025 to get him. Do you have any expectations at all for him in 2024 as a rookie?
No, he is, to me, when I think of Giovanni Manu, I think of Brodric Martin of last year, a guy who's got all the physical attributes. Like, he's huge, he's a monster, he's a Hulk, but he's really raw in his game, and I think it's really important for him to develop. He's extremely raw, right? You do not want him protecting Jared Goff's blind side as a backup right now, even as a backup right now. I'll take Sorsdale, I'll take Dan Skipper right now over what Giovanni Manu brings to the Lions this year. Have him sit back, develop, learn his skills. You develop this player, and then maybe in a couple years he can come in and be a great tackle for the Lions. And I think it's okay to do this every once in a while in a draft, to get a player who has got all the physical attributes but need development, because we've drafted so well, and not everyone is going to be able to be on the field at the same time. So let this man sit back. Let this guy build his technique up. Let this guy get better with NFL football, because he's coming from Canada. Once he gets that, be good to go. There's no reason to get upset if sometimes a rookie, like a 4th-round rookie, is not on the field all the time. This team is great at depth. We're talking about 53-man roster. And let him develop. There's other people that can step up. It's not a big deal. And you may get a gem from it if you do the development right with Manu.
I'll ask you a real quick follow-up on that. Had you ever heard of the University of British Columbia before this draft?
Not the university, but I've heard of British Columbia, and that just tells you the type of work that he had in Canadian college, and which is not much, right? So the NFL is such a different beast.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are like, well, he's not good. You can't draft a guy like that. Well, you can when your team is really set everywhere else, because he could be a significant asset to the Lions' offensive line a year or two down the road. He really could be, and that could be a hidden gem that Brad Holmes again picked up.
Yeah, talking with Mike Kimber here on the Huge Show today. Well, you brought up Brodric Martin as a developmental prospect that they drafted a year ago, and he didn't get on the field hardly at all, was a healthy scratch most weeks. And into year 2, where is your expectation level for Brodric Martin as he develops as a defensive tackle?
Well, so far so good hearing about Brodric Martin. He's taken the Aleem McNeil approach, changed his diet, and physically got his body better. That's really important, right? My expectations for him is potentially to be a rotational defensive tackle at this point. I don't think he's going to be out there starting right next to Aleem McNeil or DJ Reader week 1 or anything like that, but we're talking about sharing reps. That's what I'd like to see from Brodric Martin. Maybe, 15 snaps a game at least to start out. Just get a little bit going on from last year, because he didn't do a whole lot last year. I think now with changing his body, we'll see what he does in practice, but he's taking that next step forward, and that's just being a rotational interior defensive lineman for the Lions.